everybody. My name is Kristen Morgan. Thanks for joining me tonight. Sorry for the little bit of a delay. But in case you haven't met me, my name, like I said, is Kristen. I'm a registered dietitian and I run the cafe here and the Live, Love, Lose Cafe. And we are all about, hey Brooke, hey Michelle, we are all about here in the cafe about helping you find your healthiest weight and healthiest self, but through the work, through non-diet methods. Okay, we give up dieting here. All right, we get back to like the easy way of doing things. So tonight, just to be respectful of your time, and I'm going to talk about 5 tips for handling emotional eating. Okay, so I'm doing this because so many people tell me that this is a huge thing for them, and it's kind of complex to deal with because if it were easy, none of us would have issues with it. But I'm going to give you 5 unconventional tips for working with your emotional eating. Okay, number 1. You need to accept, I want you to accept that sometimes it's okay to use food for comfort, okay? Can you hear the Legos like smashing everywhere? So I want you to know that sometimes it's okay to use food to comfort yourself. There's this big stigma of like, if you eat anything to try and feel better, that's bad and that's wrong and you've done something horrible and like you should be guilty and ashamed. Like, let's just chill out for a second and just, you know, we are always looking, there are a lot of ways to comfort ourselves and it's okay. It's like, man, I'm really having a bad day. I'm going to grab my favorite ice cream and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to roll with it. All right. So give yourself permission to like take the negative label off it. Now, if all you do is eat and eat and eat your feelings, you're never addressing your emotions, that's a different story. But if you had a really long day at work and a long week and it's like, you know what would make me feel better? Cookies and cream, ice cream, you know, get some, enjoy the bite, be one with the food, be comforted by it, and then move on, okay? The sooner we normalize that stuff, the less it's gonna seem bad and the less guilt you're gonna have around it. So you know what, as a dietitian, I'm telling you, just do it, okay? And roll with it and forgive yourself or just accept it as part of, you know, normal human eating, okay? It's normal human eating. All right. Number two is be mindful of what you do. Okay. So I know that is kind of like woo woo, but okay. So if you do decide, you know, I'm feeling bad, I'm going to eat this. Be mindful when you make your food decisions. Okay. So many of us eat, we just are like, we like lose control and we're like stressed and we're like, I'm just going to go eat this and I'm going to eat the whole bag. And then like, it's almost like you black out and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like covered in crumbs and you're like, don't even remember what you ate. Okay. So take back, my second piece of advice is here, take back the choice. Okay. So if you're gonna be comforted by the food, be mindful of what you're doing. Okay. Like actually enjoy the food. Slow down. If you feel yourself like railing through the bag of chips, I mean, be mindful. And I talk about mindfulness a lot in my Live, Love, Lose course where we kind of like go further on this. But being mindful is just stopping and just being aware of the food you're eating. Okay? So if you're going to do it, suck the marrow out of it. Like my dad would say. Number 3. All right. So number 3, let's stimulate our senses in another way. So a lot of us eat food. Why? Because it feels delicious. Like in our mouths, like on our tongues, okay? It's just like this, you have ice cream or whatever and you're just like, you know what I mean? So that's a sense. There's 4 other senses, okay? You've got your eyes, you've got your ears, you've got your sense of smell, you've got touch. This is where like all of those senses are meant to comfort you, to give you a awareness of what's going on. So if you're really struggling with the eating part, well, think about your other senses and what can I do to really stimulate them? Listen to your favorite music, whether it's angry music or like soft classical, or this is where the whole hot bath comes in. More than just that, it's like stimulating the sensory part of your body, okay? Bringing you comfort, okay? Because you need comfort and there's lots of ways to get it. So stimulate your eyes, watch a movie, look at art, paint, you know, like do something that you like to see. So, and then scent, you know, like could be like lighting a candle or putting on a certain kind of lotion, like something that really gets your sense of smell going. So that's another thing, another tip. Number 3 is just see if you can stimulate one of the other senses, okay? Because food is all about the mouth, right? So number 4, okay, so Karen Koenig is a social worker, master of education, and the author of the Food and Feelings workbook, and I really like what she does. She says that she reminds us that the function of emotions is to tell you about what's going on the inside. Whereas our senses tell us what's going on the outside, emotions keep us in check, like what's going on in here, okay? Like that tells us, they're supposed to tell us what's going on inside our hearts and inside our bodies. So if you find yourself emotionally eating all the time, my number 4 tip is to stop and try to figure out and do an internal assessment, okay? So if you find yourself doing all this emotional eating, this is where you have to stop and say, what's going on in here? This is where the whole self-care thing of eating comes in. I'm always like talking about self-care and like sleep and all this. Like, it's because so many of us emotionally eat because the self-care part of all of this, us, is like put to the side. So what's really going on? Do you really need to get some more sleep? Like, do you really need to exercise? Do you really need to rest? Do you need more sensual pleasure? Do you need creative stimulation? Like, you're emotionally eating, and a lot of times it's because some part of you is not being cared for, okay? So stop and take an internal inventory. And number 5 is identify your triggers and plan for them, okay? So a lot of us have these routines. I know that right around 4 o'clock, before my husband gets home, I'm really tired from hanging with my kiddo, and I tend to get a little like anxious around that time of day, and that's where I find myself eating a lot, okay? So that's a trigger point for me. That's a difficult area. So when I say plan, identify those moments in your week and day that are tough, and then give yourself the option, make the alternative easy to get. So what I will do is, as soon as my husband gets home, I usually take that time and take my shower, which is like really warm. It's really relaxing. It's like 5 minutes to myself, and I can just like chill. Okay. So that is one way to break the cycle of me wanting to just eat to comfort myself, because I know that I take that shower and I feel better in another way. Okay. So identify your triggers and plan for them. Give yourself, like I said, it's okay to eat emotionally. It happens, but we don't want that to be our only way of coping. So make it easy for yourself to not fall into that. Okay. Because when we want to eat and we're like going crazy, we're just going to like eat. If our alternative is not right there and easily accessible, we're going to find ourselves like at the bottom of a bag of chips, and not know what happened. Okay, so that's all I had. Those are my 5 tips. Just a quick recap. 1, accept that it's okay to comfort yourself with food sometimes. Accept that it's okay. It's part of being human. Food is supposed to be enjoyable, and it's supposed to be comforting. 2, become mindful when you do. Okay, when you make the decision to do it, not the stress. 3, think about stimulating your other senses instead of the mouth. 4, do an internal assessment and figure out what you're not actually taking care of. And then 5, identify your triggers, your common triggers, and make a plan for them. Okay, so that's all I had for tonight. If you have questions or comments, please put them below. Let me know what you think. If you've tried any of these, not tried, what are your tips that have really worked with your biggest, and let's talk about your biggest struggle with emotional eating, because I know it's tough for me. So I would love to have a conversation. So comment below and let's chat. So thank you so much for coming, and I will see you next time.